Hello Internet, welcome to another NPC faction guide for Cataclysm Dark Days Ahead. We're going to continue the series we began previously. If you're not interested in spoilers, this is your only opportunity to step away. In the last episode we talked about Jack Isherwood, and in this episode we're going to be talking about his wife, Claire. Now Jack, as we discussed, is located in his workshop. Claire is in the neighboring farmhouse, which I assume is where they live and sleep. Interestingly, there are a few condoms on the chair in the bedroom, so you know that despite their age, they're still very much in love. Anyway, the kitchen has quite a lot of like herbalism type remedies in it. All of them are marked as stealing, so beware if you're trying to pick these items up. Anyway, we're going to talk to Claire Isherwood. As I discussed, she is Jack's wife. This is the matriarch of the family. She is the mother and grandmother of several members that we're going to meet on the farm. So we're starting with the patriarch and matriarch of the family. When we interact with her, she'll say, "Hello, what brings you here?" And we can say, "Hi, what a nice farm you have." And if you watched the last episode, you might be noticing I'm not doing a stupid southern accent. That's because that was a terrible decision and I regret doing it. She'll say, "I live here with my husband Jack. He is out working in his shop." We can say to her that you're lucky to have your family still together. To which she'll respond, "You don't need as much luck if you're prepared and work together. We've had our losses. My brother-in-law Barry was our best hunter, but things are so different now." And we'll say, "Whoa, what happened to Barry?" She'll say, "Some of their cows were killed before we realized what was happening. Barry and Carlos went into the forest to find the predator, but it was like nothing they'd ever seen. Carlos might be willing to tell you more. We'll meet Carlos in an upcoming episode, but for now we're going to focus on Claire." So we'll backtrack in the dialogue menu and ask her a different question. We'll ask her to tell us about Jack. And she'll say, "Oh, Jack and I have been together for 40 years. He's been my anchor through all of this chaos." So they both indicate how long they've been married, as well as, valuing the other person as a spouse. We'll ask her about her daughter who lives up the road, and she'll say Jess and her family live up at the horse farm. They may have some jobs for you. Again, we'll be speaking to them in the next episode. And then finally, we'll ask about her brother's place, and she'll say, "It's Eddie's Dairy is at the end of the road. He may have some jobs for you if you are interested." Again, we'll back out in the menu and ask her, "A farm must be a pretty safe place these days." To which she'll respond, "We've always tried to live a quiet life out here. I suppose we're doing better than most." Which, based on the state of the Cataclysm, seems to be absolutely true. If we disengage her from dialogue and re-engage to speak to her again, we have the option to tell her that Jack told us to stop by. When we do, she'll say, "Well, it's nice to meet you. I imagine Jack was boasting about my herbal remedies. He's proud of what we've put together here. He did mention you make remedies. Are they effective?" To which she'll respond, and this actually surprised me because if you've ever met like homeopathic people in real life, they absolutely love to state how herbal remedies are just as good as real medication. And this lady has a much more realistic approach, which is, "I've always studied and made some natural remedies, but now they're more essential than ever. Who knows the next time we'll see a trained doctor. These aren't always as effective, but they can do the job in a pinch," which is a much more realistic and appropriate response. When, if you've ever spoken to someone who takes, "Oh, I take anxiety oil. You rub it on your feet because the pores are bigger. It really helps your anxiety." No, it's not real medication. Sorry. Anyway, moving on. We also have the option to trade with her. Currently, she doesn't have anything, but once we do a few of her quests, she will have some options available for us. Things that are okay, maybe worthwhile purchases, but currently it's just her clothing and gear. We don't want to deal with that right now. So instead, we'll ask her if there are any quests that she might have for us. "I could use some fresh dandelions for the next batch of wine. Can you bring me 50 dandelions? And we'll say, "Sure, there was nothing better I was going to do than go out and pick weeds for some old lady, so we'll go ahead and do that for her." If we ask her for advice, she'll tell us that we can find them in fields during the spring and summer months. And in fact, dandelions are one of the most common plants that you're going to come across if you're in those particular seasons. Even just walking outside, I saw several from where I was standing. It's worth noting that there are also mustard plants, which have the same sprite in my particular tile set. So just be aware that not everything that looks like a dandelion might actually be a dandelion. But they're very common. I did this, normally I would debug spawn the items, but I actually wanted to see how long it would take me to harvest the dandelions. I would say walking in the forest, it took me about 3 minutes to gather the dandelions she had requested. 50 is a pretty significant number, but generally when you pick them, you'll get 2 or 3 portions, so it doesn't take very long at all. Once we finish securing our flowers for Grandma, we'll head back to Claire and turn them in. And she will respond by giving us a sealed jar of thyme oil, as well as a sealed glass jar of poppy painkiller. Both of these items have their uses, so let's take a look at them individually. The poppy painkiller that she gives us is an opioid. It is addictive, so you need to be aware of that. However, she does give us 200 portions, and I believe they're relatively powerful pills. I never made them. I know people rely on them pretty heavily, but assuming because they're an opioid that they would be at least decent at killing your pain, it's something. I mean, 200 painkillers is nothing exceptional, but hey, it doesn't hurt to have them. They also have quite a high barter value, so if you're not really interested in them, you can just trade them away for some cash or for other trade goods. She also gave us 2 portions of thyme oil. This is not super relevant. It is an antiseptic, so you'll see here it has a 95% chance to heal deep bite wounds, and it functions as antiseptic, which is valuable, but she only gave us 2 portions of it, and odds are good that by the time you would find this farm, you're probably already pretty well established in the game, so 2 portions of antiseptic is like a laughably low value. I would expect this number to be much higher. You know, if she gave us a proper bottle of like 10 charges of thyme oil, I think that would be much more appropriate. But really all we did was go out and pick some weeds, so it's kind of hard to complain about anything at all, considering we did like 2.5 minutes worth of work and she just gave us some stuff. If we trade with Claire now, she will have more options available in her inventory for sale. This includes things like bark tea, chamomile tea, dandelion tea, and just some other random goods. The things that you would most likely be interested in would be things like the cattail jelly, because again, it's an antiseptic. Some of the poppy related remedies can be pretty significant, can be pretty valuable, especially if you're struggling to find cough syrup or things like that. This seems like a good place to go for that. She is a merchant, so every 3 days from the time that we trade with her, we will have a refresh of her stock. So I'm not sure what all she has available to her, but it does seem to be primarily remedies, which are not, again, not super valuable, but also not nothing. They do have value to them. If we speak to Claire again, she will tell us that she has a second mission for us. This one is considerably more time consuming. She says, we could use some seeds for the next planting season. Can you bring me 20 bee balm seeds? And we, as the helpful soul that we are, we will of course accept her quest. When we accept, she'll say thank you. It's important to have a good stock before the flu season hits, which if you've ever had a cold in this game, you know you can never have enough bee balm, so she's absolutely correct. And if we ask her for advice, she'll tell us to search through the forest, checking in the underbrush for bee balm. Now, the issue with this particular quest is that bee balm is actually quite hard to find. Last time we had a cold in our Let's Play, I spent probably a full hour clearing forest just trying to find bee balm, and I came away with maybe 8 portions. So it's definitely not very high in the foraging list. It's certainly not the most common thing you're going to be finding, and it can be really difficult to come up with 20 seeds. Now, you can convert bee balm directly into seeds at a 2-to-1 ratio, so you really only need to find 10 bee balm. Now, I will say that I looked around the farm and could not find any bee balm in any of the fields or anything in the greenhouse, so there's no easy answer like there was with the wheat seeds. However, it's worth pointing out that there are certain house locations that you will find inside of towns that have a mini greenhouse in their backyard, and there's often bee balm plants in those little greenhouses. Now, you can harvest those, and it will not only give you a bee balm plant, but it will also give you some seeds. So they are out there in the world that you can find in various locations. Finding the 20 seeds, though, is considerably more of an ask than the dandelion quest, so it may take you a little bit longer. Once we've secured our seeds for Grandma, we'll come back and talk to her. Once we turn it in, Claire will give us a jar of pine needle tea, some royal jelly, and a jar of bee balm tea. These, again, are not very good rewards, frankly, especially given how long it will likely take you to get the bee balm seeds, but the royal jelly is pretty much valuable anytime you find it. The teas are considerably less valuable. The bee balm tea, I mean, you're essentially turning in a bunch of bee balm that you could have converted to tea yourself, so it's not really a viable trade, and the pine needle tea is just a laughable reward considering how easy it is to make, how plentiful pine boughs are, and really just the availability of tea in the game in general. Pine needle tea is not uncommon and is not that valuable. So for this quest, I'm not thrilled about the rewards either, but she does have a third quest for us. So if we talk to her again and ask about work, she'll tell us that she saw some feral cats out by the old cabin. Could we capture one for her? And we of course say, yes ma'am, absolutely, you want a kitty cat, I will take care of you. And she'll give us a chicken cage which we can use to capture small animals. She'll say, thank you, please hurry back, take this cage so you have a chance of capturing one. And if we ask her for any advice, she'll tell us to take the pet carrier. If you can get close to the cat, you can put it inside. If you're having problems, try befriending it with cat food, which is exactly what we're going to do. Now, the cabin is located a fair distance away, and traveling there, I did see some wild animals in the forest that would like to fight me. So it is, worth noting that you should take your gun and all that stuff. Don't just go out there naked because you think it'll be an easy quest. But we'll head out to this cabin that's marked on the map. And as we approach, I started to see these short-haired cats in a cluster around the edge of the cabin. If you can kind of corner them against the building, it's really easy to walk up to them. They may run away, they may not run away. It just depends on their mood, whether they were attacked by other creatures. There's a lot of factors. If you apply or activate the cage using the lowercase a key, it will allow you to try to cage the animal. I could not get the cat to go in the cage, which is unsurprising if you've ever met a cat before. And so I eventually went to make cat food in order to tame the cat. Now, cat food's really easy to make. It just requires some kind of meat and water, as well as a heat source. So we can pretty quickly whip up some cat food if you don't have any. Otherwise, finding it in pet shops obviously is very common. And we will activate the food in order to feed the cat. Once we fed the cat, it becomes tamed and will no longer run away from us. And in fact, for the most part, will follow us around wherever we go. You can now use the cage freely. You have a 100% chance, as far as I'm aware, to capture a tamed animal in a cage. So we can just pick up the old kitty cat in a cage and walk it back to grandma. It is worth noting that a cat in a cage is a little bit heavy, so I was struggling a little bit with my stamina heading back, but we eventually made it back to grandma. Upon returning, I found that you cannot actually turn in the quest while the cat is in the cage, so what we have to do is activate the cage to release the cat and then speak with Claire. We will turn in the quest and she will give us a Natural Remedies of New England. This is a book that can take your survival from level 1 to level 5. And it has a few recipes in it, like the poppy medications, cattail jelly, things like that. Unfortunately, in my game, for some reason, it bugged out and I did not get the item, so that's something to be aware of. And that is the only item that she gives us. She will say, thank you so much. I want you to have this copy of my Natural Remedy Journal. I'll name this handsome fellow Joshua, implying that the cat will be named Joshua. It does not actually rename the cat. I guess probably from a code perspective, they could not do that. As far as I could tell, this did not update her trade inventory at all, so I don't think that there's any necessary reason to do this beyond getting the Natural Remedy book, which again, I didn't even get the book. Not only did I not get the book, but it also took the pet cage from me, so I didn't even get to keep the cage. On the plus side, I guess you get to keep the cat, because as soon as I started walking away, the cat began to follow me, so it does not appear to be bound to Claire in any way. I'm not really sure why. I feel like this quest is a little bit silly with the fact that we keep the cat, so it's kind of like we didn't do anything anyway. Normally, in my playthrough, pets don't last very long, mostly because I feel that the only good animal in Cataclysm is an animal that you butcher for meat. So instead of doing that on camera and making a bunch of enemies out of my internet viewership, I chose instead to take a short rope and tie the cat in place. We'll just pretend, for roleplay reasons, that good old Joshua is going to be taken care of by Claire. And that is it for Claire's questline. I'm not sure why I didn't get the book. I'm not sure if that's an ongoing bug or just a bug for me personally. So that's something you need to be aware of. I even went back to talk to Jack, thinking maybe a new quest had opened up now that I had taken care of both of them. Does not appear to be the case. We unlocked Jack as a trader in the last episode, and now we've unlocked Claire as well, who we can come back really whenever we want to and trade with her for herbal remedies. That is probably worth something. I would say do the quests just enough to get the trades, if that's something that you're interested in, because there are a lot of herbal remedies in the game, and some of them are just as good as anything else. And like I said, if you have a cold, bee balm and bee balm tea in general are things you're going to desperately, desperately want. So I like Claire, and that's about all she has to offer. So I think that's going to be a wrap on this episode. And in the next episode, we'll be talking to Lisa and Jess up at the horse farm and doing some quests for them. So for now, that's going to do it. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode. If you did, consider clicking the like button. It really helps me out, makes my videos a little bit more visible on YouTube, and it's the best thing you can do as a viewer to help a small YouTuber like myself. But that's a wrap, so I'll see you in the next episode.